God, water, dam, Adam and Eve. In this video, I want to give an in-depth explanation of the story of Adam and Eve. Very important things that people have missed. People don't understand, but should be apparent. I mean, what I'll do is I will open your eyes to show you what Adam and Eve really did. Okay? And what this is all about is word magic. Okay? There are some it's very complicated. It's really complicated, but there are some very important examples which are very easy to understand that I can explain. And then there's it can get very complex. It can be very complex word magic. So let me give some examples. So let me try and explain the video title first. Okay, so I'm calling the video God, Water, Dam, Adam and Eve. So my cousin is called Andrew. Notice that Adam and Eve, well, the middle word is and. You could pronounce that Andy. That's the name of my cousin. He was Adam. And he was King David. His wife, a Bulgarian woman he married called Eva. She's called Eva, and that name is spelled I-V-A. You might wonder why it's not pronounced Iva. I don't know. They pronounce it Eva. So, what is a water dam? Well, I mean, that's the thing. Adam, the name Adam is, it's a dam. D-A-M. A can mean something, like an object. A object. A thing, right? A dam. A dam, it says here, is a structure built across a river or stream to hold back water. It's interesting that it's because a dam is built across. I mean, that's the thing. Jesus Christ was crucified on a cross. So let me read this again. A dam, you hear the name Adam there. A dam is a structure built across a river or stream to hold back water. So what does it mean to hold back? People who participate in sodomy would be called holding back. Do you understand? Or, someone who's, for instance, if someone had a sex slave in bondage, you could also call that holding back. Yeah? So this gets very dark. This is the thing. This is how, the world has a problem with sex trafficking and child sex trafficking. And what I'm telling you is Adam and Eve is the root of that. Right? Adam and Eve are the cause of that problem. And a lot of people are involved. What I like to call the world. What Jesus called the world. People who are people who are ignorant to the truth. They're not interested in the truth. They're interested in money and sex and fame and fortune and worshipping false idols. That is what the world does. Okay? I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying that's how it is. The world is evil. Notice how the name Eve is in the word evil. So, now that I've explained the video title, let's take a look at Genesis chapter 3, and I'll pick out some examples here, okay? So, obviously, well, it was in chapter 2, God told Adam not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And what happened was, after Eve and then Adam ate from that tree, it says here, they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. Okay, so fig is a way of saying figure. And obviously, if you figure something out, well, that idea is connected with the idea of knowledge. Okay, if you acquire knowledge, you figure something out. You learn something, don't you? And so, the fig tree is an important part of the story. Okay? So, what does sow mean? There's the word S-O, isn't there, right? So if I say so, well, people say so all the time in all kinds of situations. I don't know, what's the best example I can use? I could say, I haven't got a lot of time here, so I better get on with this video, there's the word some, which is spelled S-O-M-E. That's basically two words put together, isn't it? So, me. Have you ever heard someone say, "Oh yeah, that's so me"? If they're identifying with something, yeah, that's so me. Well, that is, some is a word, S-O-M-E, and that means, so, you could say, oh, some people, it means a small group, as an example. But also, some, the word S-O-M-E, it sounds the same as S-U-M. For instance, if you're adding numbers together, okay? So, what's the sum of 1 plus 1? It's 2, okay? As an example. And obviously, Adam, well, add. If you add a number to another number, 1 plus 1, you're adding 1 to 1, right? Add, it's a magic name. It's a magic name. Oh, I know how to add a number to another number. Therefore, I am Adam. Interesting thing about my cousin Andrew, he was Adam. He's an accountant. That has to do with tax. He works with businesses, working on their accounts, taxes, that sort of thing, right? You know, he usually carries around a calculator with him. You know, he's that kind of a guy. He likes his Excel spreadsheets, his Microsoft Excel spreadsheets, and his calculator. Mr. Adam. Yeah? And so the word so is a very interesting word, because there is the word, you know, sewing. You know how people sew clothes together? Or, you know, if you had a cut on your body that, you know, maybe you had to go to the hospital, you might have to get a doctor to sew you back together, right? To sew the wound shut. And there's the word sew, as in S-O-W, which means, you know, for example, you know, as an example, if someone wants to plant something, they might have a packet of flower seeds or something. They might have a pack of plant seeds, and they will put those in the soil, as in sowing seeds in the soil. And the thing about all of this is, well, sodomy, anal sex, is connected with sowing, because a man has sperm, and that is called his seed, and he is putting that in the other, you know, if he's doing sodomy with a woman or a man, you know, he is putting his seed in the other person's soil. And one thing that can happen with sodomy is that the anus can be torn. And so that person might have to go see a doctor or something to get their butt sewn back together. Do you understand how these words are being used? So when I talk about sex trafficking and child sex trafficking, you know, the problem is, you know, if a child has been sodomized by a large man, they may need to have, you know, sewing done afterwards. In terms of, you know, stitching, a doctor might have to stitch them back together. Yeah, do you understand how dark this is? Okay, but obviously I have to explain it. Why did Adam and Eve fall? Well, did they deserve it? Oh yes, they did. They certainly did. So, what else is here? What other Okay, so after they ate the fruit, so if I go to chapter 3, verse 7. Okay, so chapter 3, verse 7, it says, "Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized they were naked." So they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. So yeah, I mean, this is really complicated. I mean, the next verse, verse 8, it says, "Then the man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord God as he was walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and they hid from the Lord God among the trees of the garden. But the Lord God called to the man, 'Where are you?'" So this is a really good example of this. Where are you? Well, what did they do? Right? It says here, so they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. Because before, the story is, people interpret it as Adam and Eve were naked. They ate the fruit, then their eyes were opened, then they realized they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. So it suggests that they decided that they didn't want to be naked anymore, so they put on clothes. They made these coverings for themselves. And what did God say? Okay, it says here in verse 9, "But the Lord God called to the man, 'Where are you?'" Where? What does where mean? What does where mean? I am God. I'm sitting here. Do you hear me? Have you heard me? Do you hear what I'm saying? I'm wearing a dressing gown. Yeah, where am I? I'm sitting in this chair. Do you understand what I'm saying? Where are you, Adam? Verse 10, okay? He answered, "I heard you." What's a herd? What is a herd? You might have noticed that through the Old Testament and the New Testament, the shepherd, the flock of sheep, the herd. Yeah? The herd. So what does this say? He answered, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because..." Oh, who's cuz? Oh, that's right, Andrew. You're my cousin. That's right. "And I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." Verse 11, "And he said, 'Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?' The man said, 'The woman you put here with me. The woman you put here with me. She gave me some fruit from the tree, and I ate it.' Then the Lord God said to the woman, 'What is this you have done?' The woman said, 'The serpent deceived me, and I ate.'" It's very interesting because Andrew, his dad, is called Don, which is short for Donald. Verse 13, I'll read it again. "Then the Lord God said to the woman, 'What is this you have done. Notice how the word done has the name Don in it. The woman said, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." I mean, it's very interesting how this is written, because it says here, the woman said, "The serpent deceived me." So how do you interpret that? Was it the woman who deceived the serpent? Or was it the woman who was deceived by the serpent? Which way round was it? I mean, it's very interesting because, if you go back if you go earlier in chapter 3, there's the conversation between the serpent and Eve. Let's read through it. So chapter 3, verse 1, it says here, "Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, 'Did God really say, you must not eat from any tree in the garden?' The woman said to the serpent, 'We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say, you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die.'" Verse 4, it says here, "You will not certainly die," the serpent said to the woman, "for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." So if I stop there for a second, it's interesting because if you actually look at the conversation that happens between God and Adam, if I go to chapter 2, verse 15, it says here, "The Lord God took the man and put him in the garden of Eden to work it and take care of it. And the Lord God commanded the man." So this is another thing, right? Because like I said, Adam, he is actually my cousin called Andy. So let me read from verse 16 again. It says here, "And the Lord God." So in different places in the scriptures, it will say, "And the Lord God." And people want to be demons and Adam and Eve, right? My cousin, this is the evil game that they're wanting to play with me, God. They want to be like, "Oh, but it says here, Andy, the Lord God." That's the game they're playing. Okay? So it says, and I will give another example where it shows very clearly that God is not happy about that. I will read that to you in a second. In fact, you know what? I'll do it now, actually. So I'll come back to what I was going to do. If I go back to, where is it? Because this is really important. Yeah, it says here, I've already read it to you. It's chapter 3, verse 11. In fact, let me start from verse 10, okay? So chapter 3, verse 10 says here, "He answered, I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." Verse 11, "And he said, who told you that you were naked. And he said, Andy, he said, who told you that you were naked? I mean, this is the thing, because my ex-girlfriend, her name was Ania. It's spelled A-N-I-A. And I do sodomy. I'm God. That's my thing. That belongs to me. The anus, that is spelled A-N-U-S. U-S is the word us. So you can, anus can be seen as two words, an, us. And D is the fourth letter of the alphabet. D is a way of saying dick. And D, because it's the fourth letter of the alphabet, is connected with the Emperor card. So, like I said, it says here, and he said, who told you that you were naked? My cousin Andrew, he's not religious at all. He's a total atheist. He claims that God does not exist. And I've been saying for years, I've been saying for several years now, saying, it started off that I believed in God. I believed in Jesus Christ. And then I got attacked by demons. And then I found out that I am God. So that's what happened to me. I actually I was starting to be a Christian. And then I found out I'm not a Christian. I'm God. There's a difference, isn't there? But if you look at the word Christian, right, it's spelled Christ, C-H-R-I-S-T, Thai, T-I, can be, it's Thai, and that's the thing. When I was with my ex-girlfriend, I sodomized her, and I did BDSM with her, which is bondage. Yeah, Christ, Thai, and Andrew, who's an atheist who doesn't believe in God, is pretending that he's me. He's pretending I'm God. He might, even if he's not even conscious of what he's doing these things because he's a demon. He's an evil person. A sex magician. A liar. I mean, his name's Andy, and he's about a year older than me, and his brother is about a year younger than me, and his brother's name is Philip. So that's the thing. There are two of them. They're two brothers. They're the sons of Christine and Donald. And they live in Monmouthshire in South Wales. I don't know if you remember, but on the 14th of November, which was my birthday, my 38th birthday, Monmouth in South Wales got flooded. And that's where they all live. I keep telling them I'm God, but they refuse to acknowledge it. You know, they would have to have their house washed away by a tidal wave, you know, a tsunami, before, you know, they still wouldn't acknowledge me. I mean, that's how stupid they are. That's how evil they are. And they keep doing witchcraft against me to attack me. And hey, what did it say? What did God say? You will certainly die. That's what it says, Andrew. You will certainly die. Guess you're going to find out, one way or another. Yeah. So this is the thing. The conversation was between God and Adam. Verse 17, chapter 2, verse 17. But you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die. And then if we go look at the, you know, what happens after that? Okay, so you got verse 18, chapter 2, verse 18. The Lord God said, it is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him. So that's when God created Eve, okay? I mean, obviously there was the animals, and then, you know, but Adam, you know, God thought, well, Adam needs a woman. So Eve was created from the rib or the side of Adam. You know, flesh of his flesh, bone of his bones, right? So, and if we go forward to the conversation, which is between the serpent and the woman, and it says, the woman said to the serpent, we may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say, you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die. And then the serpent responds in verse 4, you will not certainly die. So, you know, it's strange, isn't it, how in the conversation between God and Adam, there is the word certainly. And then when, you know, when Eve is explaining to the serpent, she leaves out the word certainly. And then when the serpent responds, he says, you will not certainly die. The serpent said to the woman, for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. So, you know, there's a difference, you know, because certainly is, you know, there's a word there that, you know, it appears and then it disappears and then it comes back again. You know, what is that? You know, certain lie. Certain lie. Well, what's a lie? Certain lie. Yeah, isn't it very strange? It's a very complicated thing to try to explain, though, isn't it? If you're following the logic of this that I'm explaining, it's very complicated word magic. What else? I saw something. Yeah, what else was I going to say? I mean, that's the thing. You know, Eve said, you know, what did she say? You know, you know, she said, we may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say, you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden. But that's the thing, there are two trees in the midst of the garden, right? There's the tree of life and there's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So there are actually two trees mentioned. Hang on a sec. Let me have a quick look here. trying to think. Hang on. Let me just double check that actually. So where is that? Hang on. Yeah, it says here, chapter 2, verse 8. Okay. Now, the Lord God had planted a garden in the east, in Eden, and there, and there he put the man he had formed. The Lord God made all kinds of trees grow out of the ground, trees that were pleasing to the eye and good for food. In the middle of the garden were the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So that was actually verse 9. Okay, I started at verse 8 and then I read from verse 9, which is, the Lord God made all kinds of trees grow out of the ground, trees that were pleasing to the eye and good for food. In the middle of the garden were the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's the same in this Bible. Verse 8 and verse 9 are the same paragraph. Isn't that interesting? Because, you know, I read from verse 8. Well, what does it mean to eat? Do you know what I mean? I mean, this is the thing, because obviously throughout the Bible, 8 is a number that occurs again and again and again and again and again and again. Right? 8. You know, eat, 8. You know, what's this all about? You know, they ate the forbidden fruit. Yeah? You know, why is it that the number 8 sounds exactly the same as the word ate, A-T-E, as in, you know, consuming a food? Do you not see how that might be problematic? You know, and that also, you know, that could be, you know, 8 or 18, 28, 38, 48, 58, 68, 78, 88, and so on. Yeah? 800, 8,000, 8 million, and so on. Yeah? And this is the other thing, you know, because I've pointed out, you know, these things about these words, you know, for instance, when God said to Adam and Eve, when they hid, where are you? Where, you know, where is a word, it's spelled W-H-E-R-E, you know, that usually is talking about, you know, location, you know, so if you want to find out where someone is, you say, where are you? You know, you're not asking them if they're wearing clothes. You're simply asking, you know, where's your location? Right? Oh, so you know, if someone asks me, oh, Grant, where are you? Oh, I'm wearing a dressing gown. That's where I am. I'm wearing a dressing gown. Does that make any sense to you? That doesn't make any sense. But this is what the world is conspiring to do to me. It's all about trying to create diversions. It's all about, you know, I'm like saying, hey, I'm God, I'm here. And then someone's like, here? Oh, must be over there then. Or where? Oh, a dressing gown. You know, this is, you know, it says here, they sewed fig leaves together. So, what that can be also talking about is, Adam and Eve, what they're doing is they're gathering all the people who hate me against me. They're basically they're trying to use the world, which are people who are not of me, God. They're trying to run away, and what they're trying to do is use magic and witchcraft and sex magic and evil things to fight me. That's what they're doing. Because fig, it says here, so they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. I already know that. I mean, you look what happened with Prince Andrew, the brother of Charles III. He's been stripped of his title because of his connections to Jeffrey Epstein, who was a child sex trafficker. He was a sex trafficker. All that stuff that's happening in the media, that is a reflection of my cousin Andrew. And it's the same with Andrew Tate. Yeah? The rich guy who lots of guys like to listen to? Andrew Tate is a reflection of my cousin Andrew, who was Adam. Oh, what's Andrew Tate? Oh, he's a Muslim. That's right. Yeah. And he hates me. He doesn't like, what would Andrew Tate think of a guy like me? Oh, he'd hate me, wouldn't he? Of course he would. He'd call me a fucking loser. But I'm God, and I'll send Andrew Tate to hell. And he can burn in hell. And I'll take all his money as well. Yeah? And all his nice cars and his nice house. Yeah? And I'll take all the women that I want as well. And he can cry about it in hell. Yeah? Along with Andrew. Yeah. That's right. I mean, you might notice there's that guy on TV. He's a journalist called Andrew Neil. His name is the exact same spelling as my cousin's name, Andrew Neil. Surname spelled Neil. Yeah, Andrew Neil, the journalist, was associated with the opening of GB News. And what happened is, after GB News launched, Andrew Neil did a runner. Right? He parted ways with GB News. Anyways. I mean, that's the thing as well, right? Because, the thing about the serpent and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Well, that's the thing. Eve is evil. Is she not? Then who's good then? You could kind of look, like it says, the serpent was more crafty. Yeah? The serpent was very crafty. Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. And that's the thing, what he says here. He said to the woman, did God really say? Well, this is the thing. Look at the word really. What's that mean? Is it real lie? Or is it really? What are we talking about? Because Lee, you could say real lie, couldn't you? I mean, look at the word light. You see over there? There's a light. Is a lamp? Yeah, you notice how the word lamb is in lamp? And that's a light. And obviously, Jesus is the truth, right? Jesus said, I am the light of the world. But then lie, if someone is telling lies, something that is fictitious. Someone, if, for instance, you know what I mean? That, the opposite of truth is called lie. So let me go back here, right? It says here, did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? Well, did God real lie say? I mean, this is how word magic works. You either want to know the truth or you don't. Those who don't want to know the truth, they rely on changing the words and doing word magic in order to try to escape judgment. That's what it's all about. Using word magic to battle me, God. I mean, the other thing is that about, Adam and Eve, well, dame in French means woman. And so this is another part of the magic as well, because, some will argue that, people say things like, God damn. Well, damn, what does that mean? If you curse someone, that could be damning someone, right? D-A-M-N, or, a water dam, it holds back water, which is connected with sodomy. My mom, who's dead, her name was Fee, and I am male. So, demons will try to lie and be like, oh, he's a woman because he's female. He's a male, came out of a woman called Fee. Therefore, we'll pretend that he's Adam, or a woman, or a female. Eve, how do you spell everybody? Yeah, Eve, everybody. Yeah, how do you spell evil? Yeah, you hear the word Eve and evil? I mean, you ever heard, people say something like, the fall from grace? Well, this is the thing, because of the word order, what demons like to believe is they think that the fall from is grace. Like, how do you acquire grace? The fall, right? Because the fall is what comes before grace, right? How do you get to the word grace? You fall from first, right? You do the fall from, and then you get grace. Because grace is at the end of those, it's the word order. The word order matters. This is why, put God first. It matters, right? God, da 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 da. I mean, look at Vladimir Putin. Yeah? Oh, put God first. I am put. This is a cigarette, and I'm going to put it in my mouth. And I'm going to smoke it. I am put. And I am putt as well. I've played golf. Yeah, I've putted as well. Yep. So what I'm really saying about my cousin Andrew and the world, his wife Eva and the world, and that includes Donald, their dad, Andrew's dad, Donald. He's involved with this, and his wife Christine, who's my aunt, the Antichrist. They're involved with trying to prevent God, me, from stopping what the world is doing, sex trafficking and child sex trafficking. Because they refuse to acknowledge me, they keep doing witchcraft against me. And for many years now, I've been warning them, I've told them who I am. They refuse to acknowledge it. They keep doing witchcraft against me, word magic. They are naked. I see what they do. And they hide from me. And they're trying to escape me by doing more and more evil things. And the world is falling apart, isn't it? Horror story after horror story after horror story. Yeah, planes falling out of the skies, people getting killed, wars. The country is getting worse and worse. Obviously, there's the migrant crisis that people are worried about. A lot of people are worried. Not everyone's worried about it, but a lot of people are worried about it. My name is Grant. There's a crisis. Yeah, the whole point of the migrant crisis, people coming across in dinghies from France, is it's a covering, right? Let me read this again. So they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. See, the coverings, these are magic coverings. These are people trying to divert attention. They're trying to create reflections, mirror reflections. And they're trying to divert everybody's attention using witchcraft. Trying to keep the world playing this game of I don't exist, God doesn't exist. What was the aim of, Eve? She wanted to eat the fruit, right? She was told that when she eats the fruit, she will be like God and her eyes will be opened. She will have the knowledge of, I'll read it here. For God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. And this is the thing, right? Because the eye is associated with the anus. In magic, it's the anus, which is, there's a lot of magic associated with the anus, and it is referred to as an eye. An eye. Well, an is, anus is spelled, it's an us. So an is a word, isn't it? An eye. Because you don't say a eye. Well, there's artificial intelligence, of course, but, to be grammatically correct, you would say an, which is A-N, and then the next word would be E-Y-E. An eye. An us. An I. That's not, there's lots of because they're using sodomy and butt magic, shit magic, sex magic. I'll read on, okay? So it says here, verse 6, chapter 3, verse 6. When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye. So, it says here, and, there's that word again, and, or Andy, right? So, yeah. When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye. Well, that's the thing, right? How many eyes did Eve have? Did she have 2 eyes? Or did she have 1 eye? It says there, pleasing to the eye. It doesn't say pleasing to the eyes. It says pleasing to the eye. And also desirable for gaining wisdom. She took some and ate it. She also gave some. Remember what I said about the word some? Adam, right? What's he called? Adam. If you add 2 numbers together, you get a sum, don't you? She also gave some to her husband, who was with her, and he ate it. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized, let me read that again. And they realized they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. So Adam and Eve are relying on very complex word magic to try to escape me, God. And they are conspiring with Fee and Mary, Fiona, Mary, the world. They're conspiring to do this. When people say God damn, you're basically, in a way, what you're kind of saying is you're saying God Adam. That's the thing. That's what you're doing. You're saying God Adam, in a sense. What the world does, it wants to hold back water from me. So, it doesn't have any love or emotion for me. There's no water. That's what water is connected with. It's emotion, love. And so the world holds back water from me. And obviously the world is involved with a lot of sodomy, which is sex magic. The world is full of people fornicating and doing sex magic, and very evil things are being done by secret societies, sex trafficking. So it's a very complex story to try to explain. What really was the fruit of the tree? Well, it's witchcraft, it's sex magic. That's what it's really about. It's the fact that it has to do with magic, sex magic, and evil. The fact is that Adam and Eve were prepared to do evil things, and that's what they did. They were warned not to do it. They were told, you will certainly die if you eat that fruit, and that's what they did. And this is the other thing, because I post things on Facebook. I explain who I am. I explain how all this magic works. And I'm pretty sure Andrew and Donald and Eva, right? So Andrew, these are people who are in my biological family. Andrew, and my aunt Christine. These people, they've been listening to me. And they've been learning from me, and they've been trying to copy me. That's the thing. They're trying to replicate what I'm doing. I tell them I'm God, and they think I'm a witch that they can replicate. And I told them not to do that. So, I'll leave it there.